Welcome to A Case of the Mondays, a podcast by 3R Strategy. We are a pay and reward consultancy supporting organisations of all sizes and sectors to take a fair and equitable approach to pay, communicated clearly and honestly to employees. In this podcast, we invite experts to discuss some of the most pressing issues in the world of HR, culture and leadership. We're keen to explore how we can all work to overcome and navigate these challenges. So, tune in to explore how you could create an environment where people don't just have to come to work, but want to.
Welcome back to another episode of A Case of the Mondays. I'm Rameez, your host, and today we're doing something special. Instead of our usual format, I'm excited to have the entire 3R Strategy team joining me for a conversation about something that affects every single one of us, which is workplace culture. We all spend a significant amount of our time at work, and the culture we experience there can be the difference between dreading Monday mornings, having a case of the Mondays, and actually looking forward to them. In today's episode, we're bringing you our top 10 tips for creating a winning workplace culture, but with a unique twist. Each member of the team is going to present their top tip about what makes a great company culture, whether it's something they've experienced in their previous workplace, whether it's something that we have at 3R Strategy, or if there's something they'd like to see implemented in the future. So let's dive in and meet our first team member, Emma. Welcome to this month's podcast.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Emma. I've been 3R's content executive for coming up to 2 years now. And I think something we have at 3R, actually, that I found really contributes to a culture of continued progression and shared success is having our annual learning and development budget for each employee. So it's a fairly recent thing that we've implemented, but each person gets a kind of certain amount of money that they can put towards courses or online learning or anything it is that they want. And it's not something I've had before, but it actually really encourages me, especially, to kind of dig a bit deeper into new skills or things I might not have thought I wanted to learn more about in the past. And not only does it help with individual career progression, whether it be up, down or sideways, but it also mirrors the purpose of our academy, which, it allows people to kind of grow their careers and support other colleagues and really share knowledge across other departments as well, which I think is crucial for that shared success and collaboration. That's my main takeaway from 3R.
Great. And so, Emma, do you think that having your own budget or having control over your own budget has changed your approach to development? Has it made you think more about your own development and what you should be doing? Is it exciting to think about different things that you can, because I think you've been, is it LinkedIn Learning that you've been using quite a bit
Yes.
for new courses and development? So how has it changed your approach to development?
It's definitely made me be more proactive about it. I think in the past I've had things that maybe, challenges I've come across in my day-to-day job and thought, oh, it'd be really nice to look more into that. Or like web design, for example, we've been working a lot on our website and the academy. And before I might have been like, yeah, it'd be a nice to have, but haven't really done anything about it. But now I can actually think, well, I've got this, budget to use, so I'm going to go in and find something that I can not only use for my job now, but that perhaps might help me in the future for other projects that we work on as well.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. So Emma's top tip is focus on learning and development and having your own budget to do this. Next, we're going to move on to my colleague Jenna. Jenna, please introduce yourself and tell us your top tip.
Hello, I'm Jenna, and I'm the Reward Communications Manager at 3R, and I just figured out that I've been here 4 years because I couldn't remember.
Wow.
So I had to check with Sarah. 4 whole years. And my top tip is allowing your employees to be masters of their own time in whatever way that works for your company. So I really like about 3R that we are just trusted to be doing our work, and if you're not at your desk at 9 a.m., nobody is like, where's Tracy? Tracy's not online right now. Like, what could she be doing? Is she skiving off? And the fact that you know, if you have an appointment or something you need to go to, like, you just put it in your calendar. And I think it just gives you a sense of autonomy in your workday that's really important if you're trying to retain people and help them feel relaxed and trusted in the workplace.
Yeah, so I mean, 4 years. I hadn't realized it'd be that long as well. But I remember before you joined 3R, I was working with you as a freelancer, and I remember you saying, "Oh, I'm never going back to a job again. I love the flexibility of being a freelancer." So,
Yes.
I guess my question then is, do you think that having this flexibility, which maybe you had as a freelancer, but you didn't have in your previous roles, do you think that this impacts your productivity or the level of creativity you have within your role, or is it just more a peace of mind? And what is the difference that you see in your work professionally, if there is a difference?
Yeah, I think it does impact all of those things. I think just from a life logistics perspective, it just makes life much easier. You know, with like other things that are going on in your life, to find the time to fit them all in around your work. But also, you know, I think we all work in slightly different ways. I know some of us prefer to start a little bit later and work a little bit later. Some of us start a lot earlier. I personally like to do a lot of my intensive tasks in the morning because that's when my brain is better at them. And so I think having the flexibility to figure that out for yourself probably does mean that you're more productive and more creative. And so, yeah, I appreciate that about working here.
And less stress?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jenna. So Jenna's top tip is masters of our own time, having flexibility. Next, we're going to move on to Juan. And Juan, can you please introduce yourself, and what is your top tip of building a great culture?
Thanks, Rameez. I'm Juan Novoa, Director of Consulting at 3R, joined in April this year, so that makes it 7 months. Time has flown, and really enjoying it. My top tip has to do with humor. And I've been thinking about this, and when you hear humor, you wouldn't be blamed for thinking David Brent and The Office and something cringy like that, and that's not really what I mean. And actually, I don't think humor is something you can develop, but you can set the conditions for that. And I think that's where you really get that culture that people enjoy. And it's a culture like we have at 3R. So I find it that when you create an environment where people are comfortable being themselves, where they don't feel they have to conform to norms, but really bring themselves to work, when there's trust, when you find that people give each other the benefit of the doubt, and when there's psychological safety, when people feel free to express their opinions, knowing that they're trusted, that if you say the wrong thing, they're not going to blame you. They're going to be given the benefit of the doubt. I think all of those things set up to workplace that has humor. And at 3R and the places where I've worked, where I've really enjoyed working at, all of those places, I can remember being able to laugh at myself, at others, doing the work, doing great work, but also doing it in a way that you enjoy it, that you enjoy sharing with your colleagues, working with your colleagues, and that actually translates to clients as well. You work in a different manner, you build better relationships. So this humor bit, I think, is very important and something that if you do have it, you know you've created conditions for a great place to work.
And you mentioned David Brent, and I think we've all probably worked with a character that brings humor to the workplace, but probably a lot of inappropriate humor as well. And so, how do you balance having humor in your workplace versus setting those boundaries?
I think there's an element of, let's say, calibration that takes place early on. So I remember my first day at work. I don't know who it was, probably Emma on the Teams chat. First thing that I saw was this great GIF. And that immediately started giving me a feel, okay, this kind of workplace in a good way. And then there's a period of adjustment when you do tend to play it safe with types of things that you may do or say. And then you naturally start at finding those boundaries. But that's also where the point of trust comes into play. If you cross boundaries that you probably didn't know were there, knowing that someone will tell you about it and will do it in a constructive way, not in a way that makes you uncomfortable being yourself, that can also help. So that element of trust and communication is very important. Giving yourself time to find where those boundaries are. But I think all of that tends to happen naturally. And yes, I think many of us have a different brand of humor outside of the workplace than we do at the workplace. But as long as it's authentic and people enjoy it and it doesn't cross those boundaries, it can work really well.
And I guess it's if you can think about those places where you worked previously, having that humor probably helps to build stronger relationships in the workplace as well.
Yes, within the workplace, but also with clients. And places like 3R, when you see, we pride ourselves in saying we become a part of the team. Being part of the team also means enjoying working with each other and building strong relationships. And humor, I mean, when we're in a call and, okay, you have some chit chat, you crack a few jokes at the start, but it's natural. It really helps deepening those bonds and those strengths with clients and makes it more enjoyable to work. So both within our team, but with clients as well, that piece of humor really makes a big difference.
Okay, thanks, Juan. And so Juan's top tip is bringing humor to the workplace. And so if anyone's looking to apply for a job at 3R Strategy or any clients that are looking to work with us, so please start working on your comedy material. Next, we're going to move on to Lauren. Lauren, can you please introduce yourself and what is your top tip?
Hi, everyone. So I'm Lauren. I'm one of the senior reward analysts at 3R. So been here for just coming up to a year now. So not to sound cliched, but it's gone really quickly and I've really enjoyed it. So it's been great. In terms of my top tip, I would say it's really important that your employees are not micromanaged. So I think it's something that we're really good at here at 3R that actually it's quite similar to what Jenna was saying. We know what we've got to do. Everybody knows what their priorities are. And it's something that we talk about as a team at the start of the week. So everybody knows what everybody else is working on. There's no kind of sense of being watched or checked on. Everybody's kind of treated like an adult, really. And I think that's really important in terms of going back to kind of trust and people working in different ways. Kind of what Jenna alluded to earlier about different times of day suit certain people's different types of tasks. So it's great to be able to just get on with your work and what your priorities are when you need to do them without feeling like somebody's breathing down your neck, asking for updates.
And do you, because you moved from a very large organization when you started at 3R, do you think it's a difference between working in a very large organization, or do you think it's more down to the team culture or your manager that you have more micromanagement?
I think it's difficult to say. I think it's maybe easier in a smaller organization because that kind of the culture of the business is kind of different maybe to a larger organization. So I think within larger organizations you probably get some really great teams, but it's sort of down to the manager. So I think it can be maybe more difficult in a larger organization just because there's more managers and there's more teams. People have different styles. So yeah, it's probably been more noticeable for me coming to a smaller organisation, but it's not to say places I've been at in the past haven't had great teams that I've worked within. So I think it is really dependent on the individual and the manager of that team.
And do you think having no micro management has affected how you work? Do you think it's impacted your confidence, for example, when you're working on projects or meeting with clients?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so, because I think the feeling of being micromanaged and having somebody sort of watching over your shoulder can, for a lot of people, add a level of pressure and stress that actually they don't need if they know they're going to meet the schedule or the deadline and the work's going to be done. Having that extra layer of pressure is probably more of a hindrance than anything. So I think it can really help.
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. Lauren's top tip is no micromanagement. Next, we have Philippa.
Hello, I'm Philippa. I'm Philippa. I'm one of the reward consultants here at 3R. I have been here for nearly 3 years, so it's gone really fast, and it's just a joy to work at 3R. And I think my top tip from working here, but from working from other places, is recognition. Be a mutual admiration society. Have a strong culture of saying, do you know what, I work with great people, and this is what I need you to know about why you're great. So I know for a fact that I've never worked with a whole team of everyone who's quite so great at their jobs as I have at 3R, but it doesn't really matter in my mind, as long as you are able to even find a tiny bit of appreciation for someone else. That encourages a culture of trust, of saying, do you know what, you've given me recognition, you said that you liked what I did. It's a positivity injection into the culture of the company, and I'm here for it.
Thanks, Philippa. And do you think that culture of appreciation or that mutual appreciation, it's a similar question to what I asked Lauren, do you think that impacts how you work, how you tackle challenges, your confidence?
Massively. I think that you can't be confident if you're not getting any feedback that's positive. If you're consistently getting nothing or consistent negativity, then it's going to knock your confidence. That psychology and that psychological safety that Juan was talking about can't be there. And without that, it's really hard to do a good job and be confident in doing it. So appreciation is very important.
Great, thanks. So Philippa's top tip is mutual admiration or culture of recognition. Just wanted to point out that we didn't ask everyone to say why they love working at 3R. So this is not a promotional video. This is a podcast around how to build a culture. So, but it's great to have that appreciation for 3R strategy along with this. So thanks, Philippa. And next we'll move on to Ray, who is our newest member of the team.
Yeah, I'm Ray. I'm a communications executive, and I've been at 3R for 4 months now. I'm going into my 5th month, and I feel like I have to say it's flown by. It has. It's crazy. I can't believe I've already been here 4 months. Yeah, and I suppose being new and everything, the thing that I've really, really appreciated since I started is the genuine patience everyone has for answering questions. I think when you're welcoming in a new person to a team, even if they've got lots of experience or not, just having everyone, when they say, you can ask us anything, if you have any questions, please do just approach us, and genuinely mean it. It really does make a massive, massive difference, because you're coming in with, your own anxieties or your own previous experiences. And sometimes, company people might say, yes, feel free to ask any questions. No question is too silly. And then you do. And then they're like, we don't have time for this. Please stop. And that's been really refreshing and really, really supportive. And I've really, really appreciated that coming in.
Great. And do you have an example of when you did ask for help, and maybe you had an experience previously where you thought, oh, let me just ask, but you had an unexpected response or a learning?
Well, coming in here, I suppose it's that when I have questions and someone is willing to take the time to go on a call with me. So it's been like since starting here, there's always the initial question from everyone, which I've not really had before, which is, how do you best take on new information? Is it through writing? Do you want me to put it in the copy? Do you want it in an email, in bullet points, or do you want me to jump on a call with you and actually talk you through it? And I think it's that just initial response to check in with me to make sure, well, am I delivering this in the most supportive way for you? That was quite unexpected. It wasn't people just coming in, okay, well, I can only write down a couple of notes in a quick message and send you on your way kind of a thing. It was far more, how can I deliver this information to you in a way that you're going to retain it and you're going to best understand what I'm saying? So that's definitely been something unusual that I came across at 3R.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I guess some of that comes from Jenna, because we're always thinking about our clients and how we communicate, and whether people want to hear that information through employee guides or videos, or do they want an email? Do they want a one-to-one with their manager? And so I guess we've always had this sort of rule of whatever we say to our clients, we should try and follow ourselves. I may not always do that, but it's good to see other people are doing it.
Everyone else is, Rameez.
So, yeah. Great, thanks. So, Ray's top tip is about being welcoming and patient, and thinking about the different ways that people would like to receive information. Next, we'll move on to Sarah. What is your top tip?
Hello. So I'm Sarah. I'm the operations manager at 3R, and I have also been here for just over 4 years. Me and Jenna figured out that we started just around the same time. Obviously flown by, obviously amazing, all that stuff. So my top tip, and obviously when I started, it was just coming out of, well, I think we was kind of still in a lockdown. And I think for, like quite a few people, this was my first experience of working for a fully remote organization. It took me kind of 6 months after I started to see other people's legs and, sort of see like full body versions of team members. And I think one thing that I've really valued is that kind of the open communication you can have while still being remote and not all being in the same room physically. And, I think someone said earlier about, we do, I think Lauren said we have those Monday morning chats where we all kind of talk through our priorities for the week and what kind of work we're doing, and everyone's on board and aware of what team members are doing. But then we have a call on a Friday afternoon, and it's just to close the week off, and it's everyone just to have a chat. And we don't really talk about work. It's mostly animals. We mostly talk about animals. And it's just a time just to have a quick sort of roundup. How's everyone doing? What's everyone doing for the weekend? And it's things like that that are so important for a working environment. And it's something that we do at 3R. I'm sure it's something that other fully remote organisations do as well. I hope so. That would be my tip for you. But it's to maintain that level of like camaraderie as a team and make sure you're still having the day-to-day silly, funny chats, as well as the sort of like, one-to-ones about work and projects and sort of certain timeframes and things. It's it's really important, and it's something that I think is really good for a remote team.
Great, thanks. And do you have there's so many different topics that we've discussed on those Friday calls, and it's, really random topics, but do you have a favorite moment or a conversation that you can remember?
God, that is so hard.
Yeah.
I don't think I could pick out a specific one. What I always love though is when someone's off, either like if they might be off sick or they might be on annual leave, and no doubt while we're having these chats, someone will post something on the team's chat referring to that conversation. So someone will come back in on Monday and be like, why have I got a picture of like He-Man on a tricycle. Like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm sure we haven't actually spoken about He-Man on a tricycle, but it will be something as ridiculous as that. So no, I think it's impossible to pick out a certain topic, but I always find it fun as well. If I'm off on the Friday, I come back on Monday, I'm like, oh, they were having an interesting conversation about complete nonsense.
Yeah, and I guess you also sometimes see people who are supposed to be off and they end up participating on the fun chat.
Yeah, I mean, Jenna did it recently from Turks and Caicos, so some people were really committed to the Friday fun chat.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sarah. So Sarah's top tip is the Friday fun calls, or having time set aside just for the team to have a chat, not discuss work, but just to catch up on everything that's going on outside of work. Next, we're going to move on to Tashdid. Tashdid, what is your top tip?
Hello everyone, so I'm Tashdid. Alongside Lauren, I'm the other senior award analyst. I've been here for precisely 343 days, 344 if you count today as a full day, and it'll be a year by the time you're watching this. So yeah, let's call it a year then. So my top tip is managing workload for everyone without putting too much on a specific individual. So I'm not saying micromanage people. What I'm saying is I like this phrase called forwards thinking, backwards planning. So as Juan always says, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And I think all of us do that really well. So the positives to it is I think you could be more creative. So you've got more time to spend on that specific project. So better ideas, make things more efficient. And the second benefit is just mental health. I think this is me comparing myself here to other places. And I think it's a more chilled environment, but we still get this stuff done.
Yeah. Thanks, Tashdid. So I think your introduction gives people a very good idea of what you're like by giving us the exact number of days you've been here before and after this podcast. And I'm surprised you didn't tell us how many steps you've done in those 340 days. But can you give us an example of how, having your forward-thinking, backward planning approach has potentially helped you in a project that might otherwise be quite stressful, but it's enabled you to manage it in a much better way?
I'll get back to you on the steps. But in terms of the specific projects, I'd say, because what I've been used to, I personally do this forward think, backwards plan. But in terms of previous workplaces, I feel as if this is the deadline, you need to get it done. But I think here it's more, we kind of more ask the question of when does the client actually need this? What are they going to use it for? So if, for example, they're presenting something back to the board in February, they don't really need it for December. Although if we just ask them, when do you need it? They'll be like, oh, December, as quick as possible. So I feel as if just asking that question, we can just tell them, would this work for you? And then we can work backwards and put the checkpoints in place. It just gives me that peace of mind, I think.
Okay, great. Thanks. So Tashdid's top tip is forward thinking, backward planning. Next, we have Tracy, who I think has been here, has definitely been here longer than Sarah and Tracy. So, Tracy, can you introduce yourself and tell us your top tip?
Hi, yes, so I am Tracy. I am the Senior Reward Consultant. I have been here probably 5 years, based on what Sarah and Jenna were saying. I'd have to check LinkedIn. So in terms of my top tip, I think something that I personally appreciate is being involved in decisions that are going to impact us all, impact the organisation. That could be something really small, like changes on the website, for example, or it could be something really big, like do we want to pursue this client? Do we want to go ahead with this client? Does it meet our company ethics, for example? And we all get involved in those decisions. We have an opportunity to challenge decisions. We have an opportunity to ask questions, and then we can come to a conclusion where we all feel like we've been involved and had input and understand how we've got to that output and that decision.
I guess it links back to when we talk about workplace culture and that concept of belonging that everyone talks about, and being involved and being able to influence those decisions can give you that sense of belonging. So can you think of an example of an important or an impactful decision that maybe you were involved in?
I mean, we all get involved quite often in recruitment. That's not just done in silo, one manager, one recruiter that you might get in a larger organisation. Like you say, appreciate the size of our organisation. It allows us to get involved in really high level strategy decisions. But I think even in larger organisations, you can make sure that team members can be involved in decisions that are going to impact the team. It's not things being done to them. They are involved and they understand why changes are happening and being able to bring forward suggestions for changes. So one of the things that we used to do, and we need to keep doing more of them, was those innovation sessions where we all would come together and somebody would present a topic. One of those topics might be around methods of communication, and present that, and then we would then as the team discuss how can we implement this in our day-to-day business and how we work with each other, and how can we do this with clients as well. So those are examples of where we have all come together and made decisions.
Yeah, you're right. I think we need to it's time we have another innovation session. And in fact, I can remember, I think the Pay and Reward Academy was an innovation session maybe 2 years ago, and that led to something that's obviously impacted our business in a very strong way. So this is Tracy's top tip, which is having that sense of belonging by being, involving people in the decision-making process. So I guess that brings it to me, and my top tip. Do I need to introduce myself? Yeah. Okay. So I'm Rameez Kaleem. I'm host of the podcast, A Case of the Mondays, and I set up 3R Strategy around 9 years ago. It's going to be our 10 years next year, and I think one of the things that really sticks out for me in my top tip is around not having any office politics. And that's something that I think a lot of people, and I used to, because I once quit my job after 3 months, and it was because of office politics. And, it's things like thinking about building a network of people, getting seen in the office so that you might be considered for a promotion, thinking that you have to go out for drinks on a Friday because otherwise you might not be considered for a project or again a promotion. It's thinking not how everyone dreads the feedback or the performance process because it's seen as a criticism. But I think we often, as you all know, I go to everyone every quarter and ask for feedback on how things can be better or improved. So it's seen as, I think it's more difficult to do that when you have office politics and you feel like if somebody is giving feedback, it's not coming from a good place. So that's the one thing that I really like now, is not having to think about office politics or people being in different camps, and just focusing on the work that we need to do. So those are our 10 tips on building a good workplace culture. And we will provide a list. We'll put a list of these top 10 tips in our podcast notes for you to access as well. But now I'm going to ask if anyone would like to share, hopefully not from their time at 3R Strategy, any horror stories that they can think of around workplace culture, or let me take an example. If somebody has an example of really bad micromanagement that they had in a previous role, or how humor went wrong in a team where somebody had a really bad practical joke. So who can think of or would like to share a horror story from a previous work culture?
I think I have one. It literally just pops into my head straight away.
Ah, great.
So I'm not going to say where I worked, but so this relates back to my top tip in terms of like planning ahead. So I had to do this. I was on this project and I had to do this piece of work for the following morning. So I spent the full day working. So I started at 7 a.m. in the morning, carried on to 7 p.m., went to play football at 8 p.m., got 2 missed calls from my line manager while I was playing football at 8:20ish p.m., came back, it was 10 o'clock, and then I carried on working till 3 a.m.
So what's the problem? Okay. So did you have to stay in the office till 3 a.m. or did you get to go
No,
home?
I was working from home throughout the full day, but it was just unrealistic deadlines, and it didn't have to be done for the following day. It really didn't. So I think that, yeah, that's the first thing that came into my head. Still see nightmares.
And then after that 3 a.m., did you have a 9 a.m. start the next day as well?
Precisely 9 a.m.
Wow. Okay, so Jenna, do you have a story that you would like to share with us?
It's less a story and more just a habit of the company, but somewhere I previously worked, at the end of the workday, which was technically 5 p.m., there was a real sense of no one wanted to be the first person to get up from their desk and leave. And so people would just stay sitting there, and the workday's over. So, but it was just kind of an expectation that you would stay later than your work hours at that particular culture.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that, and hopefully it's less so now, but there was also this culture in most places where if your manager hasn't left, that you have to stay. So you wait for your manager to leave, and even if you have no work to do, you sit there for an hour. I'm sure there was an episode of The Office in the US where, they did something like this. They're waiting for their manager or CEO to leave, and then they can all go home. So, any other practices, horror stories that someone would like to share?
I've got something. It is a horror story, but I'll try and not make it sound like one. But I mean, I'm still fairly early on in my career, but at the place I was working, I was obviously brand new to kind of the corporate culture, and the place I was working at the time, again, a very small company, so not dissimilar from 3R, but I'd probably been there for about 4 months before I got a promotion to head of a department. Now, bearing in mind I hadn't worked in this industry at all up until that point, it was something we talk about a lot at 3R, where managers often get promoted because they're good at their job, not because they have management experience. And I may have been all right at my job, but I definitely was not in a position to be managing a team of 5 other people at the time. And I think it comes into what Lauren was saying about micromanaging as well. Obviously, I was looking to the kind of senior department for advice on how to manage these people, and I knew micromanaging wasn't going to be the right path for these people, but it was almost like I was being forced into micromanaging them. And if the work wasn't getting done to the right standard, or wasn't getting done quickly enough for those above me to their liking, then it wasn't only their fault, but it was also my fault for not micromanaging them enough. So it just ended up spiraling. Everyone was unhappy. I was then bad at my job because I couldn't manage these people, even though I'd only been there for 5 months.
So that's, I was going to say that's interesting, but I'll say that's sad. But it's also interesting because I guess you're saying that you didn't necessarily want to micromanage, but you were forced to micromanage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily wanted to manage at all at the time. I was just, it was one of those things that you got pushed because their role needed to be filled and they didn't want to hire anybody else. So kind of got pushed that way. But yeah, it was definitely, you need to micromanage because this needs to get done. And that's the only way we can see it's going to get done.
Oh, okay. Great. And I think this brings us nicely to the next stage, because when we have these bad experiences, we have these horror stories, often, like we always say, it's an opportunity to learn and make improvements in how we do things. So the next, I just want to hear some experiences about people or anything that you've learned during this year, whether it's at work or it's in your personal life, something that you've learned that you are planning to implement next year in doing things differently. So, Sarah, do you have anything that you want to share?
This year, I feel like I was quite late to the party because I feel like a lot of people have already read this book, but I read Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I felt like when I read it, I was like the only person that knew about this book. And then everyone was like, "God, I read that years ago." Well, okay. But I found it really, really interesting. It's very simple. The concept is basically all about just building very positive habits, and sort of things like habit stacking. Sort of like when you do one thing, you do another thing directly after, or you reward yourself by doing certain things, and it's something that I feel like I've kind of been able to bring into both work and personal, which I don't think you get. Well, maybe you do get quite often from sort of those kind of books. I mostly read sort of like horror fiction, so I don't know. But I think it's really helpful, and it's definitely something that I want to bring into next year. It's little things like work related. It is things like sort of like doing the hardest thing first and making sure that when that's done, you can then sort of like reward yourself for the fun task. But also just things like blocking out time in my calendar. I always find that I just get myself so muddled with a never-ending to-do list. And then if I find myself actually blocking out that time for specific projects or tasks, I'm so much more productive and I feel like I'm really engaging with what I need to be doing much better. And yeah, I guess in personal life, it's things like, if you put your gym clothes out first thing in the morning, you're more likely to get into them and get into the gym. So yeah, something I found very useful. And if anyone hasn't read the book, then I really recommend it. It's very good.
Yeah, I can definitely agree to that. And, I think I may have done an innovation meeting on this, but clearly you weren't paying attention.
Sorry.
So no, thanks, Sarah. And I think Tash said you've read that book as well. So it's definitely a good book that would highly recommend. And maybe that's the point in the book, because I also always take out my gym clothes and put them out the night before to encourage me to go in the morning. Juan, do you have any learnings from this year that you want to take into next year?
I do, and this is a bit personal, but has been very powerful for me. This year, my brother was diagnosed with colon cancer in July, and I've learned from him a lot about the power of positive thinking. He's been a true warrior through it all. He's been responding incredibly well to treatment, and he jokes about it, says the doctors are asking him for permission to put him in a case study because of how well he's doing. But you see his clips, he almost goes into the treatment room bouncing. And at first I was worried about this being either denial or one of those instances of toxic positivity when everything's sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, but really all the pain is inside. But the more I've spoken to him, and I had the opportunity to spend time with him a couple of weeks ago, I realized it's a genuine, very good way of looking at things. So it's not about ignoring what's wrong. It's about accepting it for what it is and understanding that sometimes you do have a choice in terms of how you take it. And I'm normally someone who's very risk averse, who's always anticipating what's going to happen, trying to plan for it, trying to have full control over everything. And the way he's approached all this has been a big eye-opener. No matter how much you read or hear about it, or read about it in books, just seeing it firsthand, and in this type of situation, it has really been a massive wake-up call to me personally, to our family, in terms of, hey, it is what it is. Now you can choose how to look at it, how to approach it. And in his case, that positive outlook has had very tangible benefits and a very positive impact on how he's responded to treatment. So that was a big one for me, and something that I really hope I can take forward with me. It's made a big difference.
Thanks, Juan, for sharing that. It's great to hear about the improvements, because I know you went to Colombia for a weekend, and we're all thinking, wow, that's it's a long trip to make, and it sounds like it was a positive trip. And I've been reading a lot about the power of positive thinking as well, and I think, like you said, it's quite easy to dismiss it as just one of those things, but I think there's actually a lot of research around sort of control groups where they've done certain treatments, and the treatment just worked so much better in a group where people were thinking more positively rather than thinking there was going to be no impact. But obviously it's amazing to hear when you have a personal story like that.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll take the chance for a big shout out to my brother, to Jorge. He's actually going into his second chemo session as we speak. So really admire him for the way he's handling this, and I think we can all take a big lesson from it.
Great. Thanks a lot, Juan. Emma, do you have a learning to share with us to take to next year?
Yeah, I don't know how to follow that, Juan. Thanks. It's definitely a great lesson. And it probably links to that story in some ways. But I think a big thing I've been trying to practice this year is realizing that intentions and outcomes are two very separate things. And while you might go into a situation with the best of intentions, you rarely have any physical control over what is going to happen in the end. And that's fine. And I think it's just realizing that, yes, you don't have control over everything, but as long as you walk away knowing you did what you thought was right and you don't come away with any regrets, then, you can say that you've given 100% in that situation, and you can walk away with that positive outlook that I suppose Juan was talking about as well.
And is there can you point at a particular incident or anything in particular that helped you think of this in a more positive way, or is it just a change in attitude?
I think, it's helped me a lot in kind of personal situations. So if you've got difficult relationships going on, or if you've got a challenging situation in your personal life, I think that's where it's helped me most. But even in bringing it into work, I think Jenna posted a great post on LinkedIn a couple of days ago about, taking feedback and just realizing that, constructive criticism isn't a personal attack on you, and being able to look at it in a more positive light, and maybe even kind of how can you learn from this. Then you went into that initially with the best intentions. All right, you might not have had the outcome that you wanted, in the sense that you haven't got the most positive feedback that you were looking for, but that's okay, because you went in with the right intentions, and you can take something out of it and you can learn from it at the same time. And I guess not only would that help probably with mental health and making you feel a bit more confident, I suppose, but can help with other aspects of life as well.
Thanks, Emma. Ray, do you have a learning to take to next year?
Yeah, kind of think we've all kind of got a little bit of a link going on between what we're sort of saying, which is interesting. But yeah, so I know that, and something I've learned this year is I can be quite impatient with myself, and I would say maybe a little bit self-punishing when I'm not. I always feel the need to exceed and not just succeed. So, for example, I got a diagnosis this year of fibromyalgia, and the first thing I did was sign up to a 10K. Instead of taking that maybe a bit more slowly. I was like, no. Physical disability, absolutely not. And although I did that, I was punishing myself, I think, and I physically came out of it more tired. And some of the feedback I've gotten in my work is you can slow down, you can take your time, you can check things over a bit more, whereas I feel the need to always go, no, I've got to get it out now, it's got to be there on time, even before time, that's better, do that. So I think what I'll be taking into next year is sort of, I'm allowed to take my time and slow down, and I'm only human, and that's an okay thing to be. I've got the right intentions, and you can have, and there's a difference, I think, between what Juan was saying about having a positive mindset in the face of difficulties and sort of trying to pretend you have a positive mindset by ignoring the difficulty altogether, which I think is what maybe I sometimes do.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Who else would like to share a learning that they've had from this year?
I think, first of all, I think I need to take Ray's advice on board, but I think we all know I probably won't. So, okay, so my favorite book is The Alchemist, and throughout my life, I feel as if I always chase goals and the destination. I think what that book taught me was it's more the journey, not the destination that you're looking for. So this year, what I started to do from the start of it was have a Word document that says accomplishments at the top and write down every little thing that I've done at work that I think, it's not like a big things, it could just be like a tiny thing. And I've wrote down, I think, 48 or 49 little things, but they all add up. So going back to Sarah talking about atomic habits, I think in that book, James mentions that if you make a 1% improvement every single day for the full year, it's a 37-fold improvement. I mean, I don't think I've improved 37 times, but I think I have improved a lot. And it's not just work, it's everything that I can take that into. So I look back to June, let's say, and I see the accomplishments that only I can see and nobody else can really see this. It makes it easier for me to set another goal in the future, and it doesn't seem so daunting. It's definitely helped a lot with my running and at work, I think.
And I think for a lot of us, it's difficult to think of 49 things that we've made improvements on or changes. And I think, like you said, you're probably thinking about atomic habits, and it doesn't need to be something huge for you to put it down. So could you give us a couple of examples of the sort of things that you have in your list of 49, or is it 48?
It might be 48, it might be 49. I might make it 50 after this, who knows? It's things like, for example, again, this is the first thing that's popped into my head. Like start of the year, the calibration tables, where I feel as if it's now quicker, the process. It's not just writing down, oh, you've made the calibration tables quicker. It's maybe like 2 or 3 bullet points on that one thing. It's like a little thing I can take from each part of it. So I might have done something at the start of that process that I've noted down that I can use somewhere else in the future. It doesn't just have to be the thing that you accomplished. Like in my own personal one, so this is outside of work, the last one I wrote down was keep wearing those running socks because I saw an improvement. So it's like little things. It doesn't have to be massive. Yeah, that sounds a bit silly, but works for me. So, yeah.
Did you? I'm guessing you read that book about the Tour de France team and the Sky team and how they made tiny improvements by looking at things like the socks. Is that where this thing has come from?
I mean, I did read about the British cycling team
Yeah.
under David Brailsford. I mean, he's
that's the
at
one.
Man United now, but he's not really doing much. But yeah, I think I took it from that. It's just little tiny things like changing your socks. It might have a 0.002% improvement, but it still is an improvement. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Tashtid. So earlier we had Philippa's Mutual Admiration Society, and I think we've got Tashtid's Self-Admiration Society. So
it's nice to hype yourself up. Actually, I think everyone should do it once in a while. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself how good you are.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm going to do that straight after this podcast. So thanks everyone for your top tips. I'm going to give my learning as well, Ashley, and it's not as deep as any of yours. It's very simple. I guess one of the things that we have at 3R is no tracking of holidays or unlimited holidays, and it's something that I've been really terrible at myself. And I tend to take like 1 or 2 days off a year. But this year, I got married, and you guys were all there, and so I've now taken a lot more holiday this year. And so my learning to take into next year is to make sure that I take my holidays and I make use of the holiday policy and not just have 2 days off. So I think it's the first time in 10 years I'm going to have 2 weeks off in December. So that's my learning for next year, is to take more time off. And even if you have fixed days and you might think, I'll only take 15 days and I can carry them over or get paid for the other 10 days. It's just try and make sure you take all your time off.
I just wanted to say, for anyone that's listening to this and not watching this, the whole team clapped when Rameez said that. We're all very proud of him.
Well, that's only because you want me to go away.
Yeah, that's what.
So thanks everyone from the 3R strategy team for sharing your top tips, your learnings for everyone. I hope it gives everyone tips on how they can build a good workplace culture, horror stories to avoid, and we would love to hear your learnings from this year and what you're planning to take to next year by getting in touch with us. You can email us at podcast@3rstrategy.com or connect with me or any of the team on LinkedIn. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again on another episode of A Case of the Mondays.
You've been listening to A Case of the Mondays. Feel free to share this episode with anyone you think might find it useful. Similarly, if you have any questions about what we've discussed today or would like to suggest a topic for future episodes, get in touch by emailing podcast@3r-strategy.com or head over to 3r-strategy.com to sign up to our mailing list for regular news and updates.